I'm here to tell you very, very quickly about how I am absolutely exploding my growth on YouTube. This tool is called Cast Magic. So, all you have to do is input your link to Cast Magic. It will give you a transcript of your entire podcast very, very or YouTube show. It will give you all of the AI content you could ever imagine, including introductions, speaker bios, keywords, titles, timestamps, threads, promotional tweets, blog posts, and much, much more. You even get magic chat where people can treat your podcast like ChatGPT and ask questions about it. There's so much more. Cast Magic and use code casting30 to get 30% off. Okay, thank you. I hope that was fast. Enjoy the podcast. So, hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of Chatter. Today, I am delighted to be joined by you / Ringing Bells. Ringing, welcome to the show.
How you doing?
So you reached out to me, wanting to share some DD that you had come across initially, or that you'd put together and had like worked in conjunction with some other Redditors putting together and talking about. And it looks very interesting because it's all about the trading restrictions and the waived excess capital premium charges and the potential that there was more going on prior to the squeeze of January 2021 in the market than we have been led to understand. So, why don't we just begin with when you first heard about GameStop?
Well, to me, this is it's interesting because it's not really about the first. It's where the interest lies in the DD. So when I wanted to start understanding how brokers can come together and halt a stock buying and depress the stock's value together, I wanted to know why that they were able to do that. It doesn't make sense to me that there can be a coordinated attack on a specific stock. And so it's been 3 years from there. But to be honest, this all stemmed because I've been posting for 3 years on Superstonk. Or Super GME. So a lot of people don't know the Reddit movement, but it was Wall Street Bets to GME to RGME, and then to Superstonk. Wall Street Bets, most people think is compromised. There are pump and dumps on there for sure. The mods at Wall Street Bets for the last 3 years, in minus this last Roaring Kitty adventure that we went on a couple weeks ago, have been completely against everyone at the in the GME movement. They have basically blocked all posts coming from saying anything about GME, including the Instinet video, which
they got back on the hype train temporarily, actually, in January 2022.
I'm sorry, what?
They got back, Wall Street Bets got back on the hype train in January 2022, very briefly. There was like a few week period where like GameStop posts were allowed again, and there was a lot of hype. I can't remember why exactly that had happened, but I know that it did.
I mean, the mods have called me many names. So
I'm not suggesting that they're wonderful people. More that they're ready to jump on a hype train rather than they actually care about anything else.
Yeah, which is fine. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, like, anyway, to be honest, I think the GME movement, I mean, this may be aggrandizing it, but it feels as if the 99% movement has moved its smart crowd toward, not smart, but like it just moved a portion of its population to this. Because during COVID, we saw all those senators, I mean, that basically sold their stocks right before the release of the lockdown information in the US. You got Kelly Loeffler, you got Burr, and they all hid behind blind trusts, and that really freaked everybody out. Like, oh my God, the stock market is just such a nightmare. And then GameStop came up, and it was like a way to fight back against that stuff. From my perspective, that's what I thought. A lot of people, you tell me, is that pretty accurate?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm just showing people it was Senator Richard Burr, Jim Inhofe, Kelly Loeffler, Dianne Feinstein. Um, it's disgusting.
Well, what's interesting to me about
Burr
Kelly
sold.
Loeffler,
Oh, sorry, I was just going
do
through
you
the
know anything
figures.
about Kelly Loeffler?
Not very much.
Do you know who she's the wife of?
Oh,
The CEO of Intercontinental Exchange.
wow. Ah,
Yeah, it
yeah.
goes pretty deep. And then she was also representing uh, an area that she had vested interest in. So the conflicts of interest that you see mirrored in the GME movement are showing up already in COVID. And the levels of acute volatility were testing the stock market at that time. As you know, we'll go into, obviously, because you're interested in the excess capital premium, which was, and I'm going to go throw this out there to all the experts that went on the videos, the documentaries explaining GME. How in the world did you not talk about the excess capital premium charge when that was the reason why every single broker stopped buying on GME on January 28th, 2021? How could you not talk about that? It's literally every one of them, all the CEOs said, hey, this is the reason why we're stopping buying. And yet we don't have a documentary that says it one time. Are you kidding me right now? It's a Reddit. Well, maybe me. I freak out sometimes on Reddit. I'm like, how is this possible that nobody's talking about this? And it's literally the reason. And that was my issue with Trimbeth. I mean, I like Trimbeth a lot. Me and Trimbeth had a little thing that kind of got out of hand on Reddit on Supersonk, where because she misread the data on Instinet. We'll go over that later, but I don't have anything against her. I think she's great. She does that all the FTD exploratory research, and she's a proponent. She's did the DRS thing. I mean, dude, I have nothing against her. She just misread the data, and she refused to correct her misread to the point where I had to go through Platinum Sparkles, which is, oh my God, you should have seen the mod debates. I had probably a 4-week long conversation with the mods at Superstonk, and we were going back and forth to the point of like I'm yelling at one mod, and eventually the compromise came to Platinum came in and said, listen, I'm going to talk to Trimbith via my Twitter account. You can write the comment, and I'm just going to relay it to her. And she obviously blunted the knife, so which I really appreciate her. She gets a lot of grief, but she's been nothing but good for me, because she goes into the whole Bed Bath and Beyond thing. I think she got really rioted on by that PP crowd. I mean, they went insane. Did you see any of those memes?
No, I like. Yeah, I haven't. I try not to pay too much attention to some of that stuff. Like, she's always brilliant whenever I speak to her. She's always happy to come and chat, and incredibly knowledgeable. Like,
it's funny because the PP crowd were complaining why they got kicked off of Reddit. I mean, they were picking on her nonstop. They were doing memes about her. There were pictures about her. It's like, dude, you can't do that on Reddit. They don't like it. They don't like coordinated attacks against people. They just don't. Do they pick and choose what they care about? Yes, of course, their company. But you got to walk between the lines or whatever. It doesn't matter. They do their own thing, and I have nothing against them. They can do their own thing because their crowd is very. I mean, passionate, I guess.
Yeah. Well,
To
you
say the
can't fault
least.
them for that.
I don't fault them for anything. I don't have any problem with them. It's just it's wild seeing the drama that's happening on that end with they rented out a hangar and they had Polt there and they had some guy that was turned up to be anyway. It's not about them.
I just want to share my screen here. I'm going to give people a little look at my book actually. Basically, just to walk through like the NSCC 27th January price hits 347.51 at close, and then the next morning they go to Robinhood and they say, okay, your value at risk payment is 3 billion due by 10 a.m. And that's not even the first time. There was a few. They'd have to already like up their payments to like they'd already paid like 400 million the day before. So now they need 3 billion more. This is just for people. So this is like a self-contained thing, and then we can go into like the ECP. So basically, then they have a little negotiate, and the price gets knocked down to 1.4 billion. That's because the NSCC basically decided to waive the ECP charge. So that was like them almost able to like get there, but not quite. And then just before trade-in, they got told it was 733,967,000, blah, blah, blah. And then they were able to make that, basically. And Vlad claimed to the hearing, and he says now that they were able to demonstrate that they could control the volatility and therefore weren't at risk because they would restrict sales in GameStop, AMC, and a bunch of other things. So then to go back to the ECP charge. So why do you think this ECP charge is so important? This is the thing you were talking about, saying that like, why has no one mentioned it in the documentary? Like, for people who have not looked at any of your work before, why is this important?
Robinhood's margin charge has been the most interesting thing to me in the last 3 years. Vlad wakes up at 3 a.m. and he gets a $3 billion margin collateral charge, right? And collateral would be the margin plus the ECP. However, it was actually 3.7 billion because Robinhood had 700 million already on file with the DTCC that morning. So the total value was 3.7 billion. And they're like, what's going on? And they're freaking out. And right before the opening bell, Robinhood gets it marked down to 700 million. So everyone's like, how do you go from 3.7 billion to 700 million? And what was the process there that the DTCC took with Robinhood to get that price down to 700 million? And it's actually very interesting because it was said differently in Congress, in the congressional hearings, than it was in the U.S. House Financial Services report. So just a little context on that. The U.S. House Committee on Financial Services Congressional GameStop report came out about a year after, you know this, I'm just saying it out loud, came out a year after the meme stock market event. And I call it the meme stock market event because I don't really care about it being labeled meme stocks. I know a lot of people freak out about that, but who cares? It's a container for an issue. Ian Carroll goes off on that. He's like, I'm not going to call it meme stock anymore. Who cares? It's something to call it. So a year after the meme stock market event of January 28th, 2021, the U.S. House Committee on Financial Services comes out with a report. And the DTCC says, hey, yeah, we actually did talk to Robinhood before we started lowering their margin. They never lowered the margin. The 1.4 was never lowered. 1.4 billion is what they paid. They never lowered the actual margin. What they took away was the $2.3 billion ECP charge, but they never lowered the margin. The margin was always the same, and Robinhood fronted the 1.4 billion with the $700 million they had already on deposit with the DTCC, and then the 700 million that they added before market opened. So they hit their 1.4 billion. It's the excess capital premium that they did not have to pay. But before that excess capital premium was waived, the risk management team at Robinhood had discussions with the DTCC about their risk mitigation efforts and had specific discussions about PCOing, position closing only. That's when you put a stock in position closing only. This is for your audience, not you, because I know you know this. When you put a stock in position closing only, it means for a stock, you can open a position, that means buying a stock, or close a position, which means selling a stock. When it's position closing only, that means you can only sell, but you can't open a position, so you can't buy. So that's what PCO means. It's a real good way of encapsulating what a buy freeze is. And what happens when you freeze buying on a stock? No one can buy the stock, and everybody can sell the stock. So what it causes is panic selling. Excuse me. It causes panic selling because everyone sees, oh well, the stock can't go up because nobody can buy. So I don't want to be a bag holder, so I'm going to sell, and then we get the whole paper hand terms, and the stock price depresses artificially via a PCO. Robinhood has always been very faithful to what they said. They've always said, hey, we definitely talked to the DTCC about putting GME in position closing only. The DTCC actually came in and during the congressional hearings and said, we never had any discussions about Robinhood PCOing GME.
President, the DTCC and NSCC president, he told the Financial Services Subcommittee that the decision to restrict trading was Robinhood, that they did not tell them to do this.
Bingo. And we have him saying that. That's perfect. I'm glad you pulled that up. That's exactly what I'm talking about. And one of the most popular posts I have on Reddit for myself on the DD for GME is speaking about this contradiction. And I'm going to give that to you. And I'm not going to copyright you for any of this stuff because it's the channel that I run on YouTube is just for posting whatever. It's not monetized or anything. So you won't get dinged for it at all.
Okay.
Let me get it for you. Let's see. Okay, here we go. And
around $3 billion. The NSCC was reasonable subsequent to this. They worked with us to actually lower it. I actually was asleep at this point. The operations team was fielding this at 3 o'clock. And then we put our heads together. Our chief operating officer said, look, let's call up the higher ups at the NSCC and figure out what's going on. Maybe there's some way we can work with them. And basically there was another call and they lowered it to something like $1.4 billion from 3. We were making some progress, but it's still a high number. And then we proposed, well, let's explain how we'll manage risk in these symbols throughout the day. We proposed marking these volatile stocks that were driving the activity position closing only. Then at about an hour before market open, 5:30 or 5 in the morning, they came back and they said, okay, the deposit's 700 million, which we then deposited and paid promptly, and then everything was fine.
I really can't comment on Robinhood's decision. Only Robinhood can do that. I'd be speculating and really would not be appropriate. What we know is there was a large margin charge that they were subject to. The premium component was waived. They met their requirement and remained a member in good standing. What happened next? The decision to restrict trading really was internal to Robinhood. We did not have discussions about that.
The U.S. House Committee on Financial Services.
Okay, that statement right there, right where Bodson is the CEO of the DTCC, which means he's the de facto CEO of the NSCC, the DTC, and the FT, whatever that last one is, FCC. Forgot what it's called. I'm
Yeah.
brain farting right now. I know it, but that's that FCC one though. That's where the government has half control. That's where they're this weird entity that shares governmental control. But here, just replay that one last part that Botson says. And this was in, I think, March. Just the last 20. Just go 20 seconds back.
Yeah.
About that.
The U.S. House Committee on Financial Services report, pages
20
61
seconds
through
back, just
62.
before Botson talks. Like right there. Perfect.
The premium component was waived. They met their requirement and remained a member in good standing. What happened next? The decision to restrict trading really was internal to Robinhood. We did not have discussions about that.
The U.S. House Committee on
Okay, that part right there, when you're admitting to Congress, hey, we didn't have any discussions about PCOing the stock with Robinhood, that immediately shuts down any conversations about, hey, what were the DTCC talks with Robinhood about risk mitigation? If you've said to Congress during a live congressional meeting with, I don't know, hundreds of congressmen listening in, remember this was a live congressional hearing, so it stunts all questioning of the DTCC past that point. Now, he might have just made a blip, an error, based on no. Keep that video going because the next part is important. He might have made a blip or an error in judgment there, or maybe he wasn't completely informed on what his risk mitigation team said to Robinhood. But once you say that and you're under oath, it's problematic. It puts the congressional hearing, because the whole point of the congressional hearing was to wonder, hey, why did Robinhood restrict stocks? And if that was a false statement right there, no other congressman can ask questions to the DTCC. And the fact is, it was a false statement. And this next part of this video shows you exactly why it was a false statement. Because the DTCC sent a letter to Maxine Waters saying, hey, yeah, we did talk to Robinhood about PCO restrictions before market opened, before we lowered the ECP charge to nothing. So everything that Botson said was wrong there, and further questioning couldn't have happened at the congressional hearing because, bam, you're stunted, and that's a real issue. That's why these 3 videos were arguments for why we need another congressional hearing, is because there was complete lack of awareness about the situation. There was false information. Robinhood wasn't the only clearing firm that was defaulting that morning. But here, play this next part, and this will prove it because it's literally a page out of the U.S. House Committee on Financial Services.
Okay, sorry. Can I just clarify what you've said there?
Clarify.
That you've said that the DTCC talked to Robinhood regarding position close only prior to Robinhood doing that. So you're saying that they lied about them, but they
didn't. Lie is a strong word.
Okay.
Lie is a strong word. It's false information.
Okay. Well, they can still say, they could, just devil's advocate, they can still say that they didn't tell them to do it. Robinhood might have gone to them and said, look, we want to do this. And they would have gone, right,
That's
well, okay.
fine, but it stunted all questions. This was at the live congressional hearing. So if Botson said, hey, we did talk to him about risk mitigation efforts, and that didn't have any effect on our decision to yada yada yada, that's fine. But if you're saying we didn't have any discussions and you're under oath, that's problematic, and that's from many standpoints, because Congress can't continue the questioning thread and say, hey, what were those conversations about? Who is in your risk mitigation team? Who is Tim Cudahy? And Tim Cudahy is going to come up, and very, very important who Tim Cudahy is. And that'll come up more in the Instinet stuff, but Tim Cudahy is the risk manager at the DTCC. He has sole authority to waive all ECP charges.
So he's
And
the
it's
only one that
based
can
on
do it.
one man. So, and this is not me saying it. This is the U.S. House Committee on Financial Services saying it.
Yeah. Hang on. I just want to go back.
He's the only one who could do it at that point. I don't know if things have changed since then, because there were a lot of.
Yeah. I just want to listen to what Bodson says just in detail.
I really can't comment on Robinhood's decision. Only Robinhood can do that. I'd be speculating and really would not be appropriate. What we know is there was a large margin charge that they were subject to. The premium component was waived. They met their requirement and remained a member in good standing. What happened next? The decision to restrict trading really was internal to Robinhood. We did not have discussions about that.
Okay, there you go. So he says they didn't have any discussions about it, but we know that Robinhood did call them. Okay.
No. But the next part is so important, and it's
yeah. No, I just wanted to like clarify that before we get this next bit. Okay. So right. So then you're saying,
and before you start this, I want to say, Josh, I'm so excited that you're excited about this. I'm really, because I can see it in your face. I'm. You know how long I've been waiting for someone to get excited about this? It's crazy. You know, nobody cares about this at all. You know, it's like, this is the most boring thing to most people. Like, they look at me, and when I start talking about Botson, their eyes roll so hard in the back of their head. It actually hurts to look at them. Okay, so play the next part. It's really good.
U.S. House Committee on Financial Services report, pages 61 through 62, at approximately 8:15 a.m. ESD senior personnel from DTCC, Robinhood Securities, and Robinhood Markets spoke about the deposit requirements. According to DTCC officials, Robinhood Securities personnel explained the mitigation efforts that were being taken in response to the unanticipated spike in collateral requirements during this call, specifically conveying that Robinhood had increased margin requirements for its clients to 100% on GME and certain other volatile equities, and had decided to impose PCO restrictions on certain volatile symbols.
Bam, that's it. That's right there. Right at that end, right at the end part right there, it said that and had decided to impose PCO restrictions. And that's all part of the 815 call. I'm sorry, but they had discussions about risk mitigation efforts. Right there, it shows it. And you can't see it here, but in the footnote of the next page, not this page, but the next page, it's a letter from the DTCC to the Committee on Financial Services, to Maxine Water at the time. And they're the ones, they're kind of reneging on what Botson said in this specific part of the U.S. House congressional hearing, congressional report.
Okay, so 815 call, blah, blah, blah. Senior personnel, DTCC, Robinhood Securities, Robinhood Markets spoke about deposit requirements. So that's the 815 call. EST. Okay. So
there was a bunch of calls.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I mean, since this is 8:15 and it's going to the next sentence, because watch, if you go down to the next. Oh, you can't go down there. Let's go to the actual page. Why are we doing this on the video? It's
that's a good point.
It's not.
I'm
gonna pull up the page. And we might as well just read it out loud, because it's all right, at approximately 8:15 a.m. Eastern Time, senior personnel from the DTC, Robinhood Securities, and Robinhood Markets spoke about the deposit requirements. Specifically, the conversation addressed the excess capital premium charge and the value at risk components of Robinhood's daily clearing fund requirement, and the impact of the clearing fund requirement would have on Robinhood's liquidity for that day. During the call, Robert Crane, an equity market risk executive at DTCC, stated that the DTCC was prepared to reduce the excess capital premium charge from approximately $2.3 billion to approximately $835 million. Crane notified Robinhood that the DTCC was evaluating a further reduction or waiver of the excess capital premium charge. According to Robinhood officials, the DTCC did not provide a specific basis for reducing Robinhood's excess capital premium charge. Upon being informed that the excess capital premium charge would be reduced, the senior Robinhood personnel on the call expressed that even such a reduced amount would call expressed that even such a reduced amount would present an operational strain on the firm's liquidity. According to DTCC officials, Gretchen Howard also asked the DTCC if Robinhood could negotiate its value at risk charge down to a lower amount, which DTCC officials refused. Now, the value at risk, that calculation determines margin. So that's what they're talking about, is the $1.4 billion right there. They did not budge on that.
Yeah.
$1.4 billion they were going to pay regardless. And I do want to talk about that $1.4 billion, because another popular post on Reddit in this 3 years that I've been doing this bullshit on Reddit has to do with a very, very new argument about Robinhood's margin and what it consists of. Because I actually know the breakdown of that 1.4 billion VAR charge. In addition, according to the DCCC officials, Robinhood Securities personnel explained the mitigation efforts. Now, here it is. Robinhood Securities personnel explained the mitigation efforts that were being taken in response to the unanticipated spike in collateral requirements during this call, specifically conveying that Robinhood had increased margin requirements for its clients to 100% on GME and certain other volatile equities. Now, here's the important part. And had decided to impose PCO restrictions on certain volatile symbols. That means that that's within that call. In speaking with the committee, Gretchen Howard could not recall the specific details of any conversations with the DTCC officials on the morning of January 28, 2021. Upon concluding the call, so there's the end of the call.
Yeah, the 8:15 call. Yeah.
Upon concluding the call, DTCC officials requested that Robinhood provide detailed liquidity and other financial information to DTCA and participate in one or more follow-up calls later that day. At sometime between 8 a.m. and 8:15 a.m., a DTCC official separately notified a Robinhood Securities employee that Robinhood Securities excess capital premium charge had been reduced to approximately 800, blah, blah, blah.
Sorry, 1 second. Accompanying the call, DTC officials requested detailed liquidity, blah, 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 one or more follow-up calls. Sometime, DTC is separately notified the excess capital premium charge was reduced to approximately 876 million. Initial. Okay, right. So that's the first call. And that's when it got reduced the first time.
Let's read it out loud. Let's just go. I mean, like, if we got time, let's read it. Upon concluding the call, DTC officials requested that Robinhood provide detailed liquidity and other financial information to DTCC and participate in one or more follow-up calls later that day. At some time between 8 a.m. and 8 Eastern and 8:15 a.m. Eastern, a DTCC official separately notified a Robinhood Securities employee that Robinhood Securities excess capital premium charge had been reduced to approximately 876 million from the original approximately 2.2 billion. It's actually 2.3 billion. There was a difference between what the DTCC said and Robinhood said on the amount of the charge. DTCC said it was 2.3 billion. Robinhood said 2.2 billion. So there's some discrepancy there, but it's around 2.3 billion. So I went with the DTCC.
It's only 100 million. Like, let's not get caught up in like little tiny amounts, right?
Yeah, what's 100 million between friends? At approximately 8:35 a.m. Eastern, the Deputy General Counsel of the DTCC and Robinhood CLO Dan Gallagher spoke by telephone for approximately 10 minutes. During the call, the two discussed Robinhood's value at risk charge, as well as the actions that Robinhood was undertaking to improve its current liquidity position. Gallagher stated that Robinhood believed that its value at risk charge of 1.3 billion, it's 1.4 actually, would be sufficient. And there is also another thing, because their initial slice, the one that Vlad got at like 3 a.m. in the morning, was 1.3 billion. But by the time market opened, it was 1.4 billion. 1.3 billion would be sufficient. The additional charges were not necessary, and this wasn't an appropriate circumstance for the DTCC to exercise its discretion to reduce or waive Robinhood's excess capital premium charge. According to the Deputy General Counsel, Gallagher also indicated that if the NSCC charged amounts in excess of the value at risk charge, this would stress Robinhood's liquidity. Obviously, the Deputy General Counsel responded that he understood Robinhood's position on the matter, but that the NSCC was subject to rules and oversight that did not allow it to waive non-discretionary charges. Gallagher indicated that he accepted that, but implored that the Deputy General Counsel for further relief, arguing that the excess capital premium charge could be further reduced or waived entirely, consistent with NSCC rules. But here we go. So just going back to this one. Hold on. I this is the last thing I'm going to say, and I know I'm dominating the conversation, but let me say one thing before I stop. This specifically conveying that Robinhood had increased the margin requirements for its clients to 100% on GME and certain other volatile equities, and had decided to impose PCO restrictions on certain volatility, right?
Yeah.
Now, it's 282 is the footnote, right?
Yeah.
This was an email from the DTCC to committee staff. This wasn't even Robinhood saying this. So the DTCC is the one that is saying, hey, we did talk with Robinhood prior to, within all these calls, whatever, if it's 8:35 or 8:15, whatever. This was all before market opened, and this was all before the waiver.
So basically, they're saying they did call them. Yeah, Bodson says he didn't say he was like, oh, we didn't speak to them, but clearly they did twice about the position close only.
You're seeing how cool that is, right? That's a cool find, right? I mean, it puts Botson's whole testimony into question. It's like, what, bro? Listen, dude, you cannot say that if it wasn't true. If they did talk about risk mitigation efforts, you have to say that, my friend. And now we need to talk about Robinhood's risk mitigation efforts before we even talk about, because I mean, I wouldn't have talked about it right now, but Robinhood's risk mitigation efforts were poor, to say the least. And I'm going to bring up another post I posted on breaking down the Robinhood's margin. I don't know if you've ever seen this before, but this was something I created for a Reddit post a while ago. And this breaks down Robinhood's margin charge by stock.
Can you zoom in a bit?
Okay. Yeah, hold on one second. Okay. So if you look at Robinhood's initial margin charge on January 28th, 2021, you have, and this is their VAR, this is value at risk, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have 200 million that is just all other stocks, which is crazy. So like, first off, 200 million, and that's just the start of your margin, is all the other stocks that Robinhood trades, right? Because usually a margin is like 2 to 5% of a stock, right? Because if people don't know, margin is a percentage that in T+2, because this was T+2 back then, we're now at T+1. But in T+2, what a clearing firm does is they have to put up 2 to 5% of your stock buys in money. So for instance, like, let's say you buy $100 stock, right? They have to put up $2.50 of that stock to the NSCC for 2 days, because they're not allowed to touch your customer money. That's one of the big misconceptions on Reddit, is people don't understand what margin is to a retail investor and what margin means to a clearing firm. Margin is, we're talking about two different things. When you're putting up collateral to the DTCC in T+2, Robinhood, for instance, it doesn't matter if Robinhood had 100% margin of GME. They don't get to use any of that cash because it's locked away for 2 days. So whatever you spent, your $100, they can't use that by law. They have to front 2.5% of all your stock buys. And that's a lot of money if it's added up. What happened on January 28th, 2021 was Apex, like, just to give you an idea of what margin requirements were for GME and AMC on January 28th, 2021, Apex Clearing, AMC was at 118% notional value. That's way crazy compared to 2.5 or 5%. And then That's more than the value of the stock. So if you paid $100 for AMC, they would have to pay $118 to the clearing firm. I mean, you're out of money at that point. And then GME was at 80%, which is wild. And we'll go into why that was at Apex, because that's one of the most important things. I think that's one of the most important discoveries beyond Instinet in the U.S. congressional report. But this is Robinhood, so let's talk about Robinhood, because Robinhood really mirrored Apex in their market requirement, as you can see here. Is this something you've seen before or no?
Yeah.
Is this like, because I posted this, man, I posted this like 8 times throughout the year. And the problem with this is when you post this as super stock, people think it's an AMC push, and it's not. It's just the facts. The fact is that 15% was all stocks on Robinhood's initial margin the 1.3 billion when he first woke up, when Vlad first woke up. The 1.3 billion was 200 million of all other symbols. Then you have GameStop, which was at 250 million, which is an incredible amount. And then you have AMC Theaters at 850 million. Portal, the largest components of the company's collateral deposit requirement, was a value at risk charge of approximately 1.3 billion, as well as the excess capital premium charge of 2.2 billion, which Robinhood had not calculated. Robinhood calculated that of the 1.3 billion value at risk charge, approximately 850 million was attributed to AMC, and approximately 250 million was attributed to GME. Now, if you take the 1.3 and you split it up, that's how you get the 200 million.
Why was AMC so much higher?
Thank you. And let me bring up the post. Thank you for saying that. Why the hell was AMC so much higher, right? Okay. So, the title is very important here. Absent movie stock, Robinhood's collateral requirement is 450 million on January 28th, 2021, instead of 3.7 billion. That's 250 million under what Robinhood already had on deposit at the DTCC. No defaulting ECP charge, no PCO for GME. Instead, AMC, which is popcorn, AMC defaulted Robinhood, who froze both stocks. And then trade 385 is what I want to talk to you about there. But so the point is this, why this was, it was more highly upvoted in the other one. This was in a repost kind of. But under risk mitigation efforts, if Robinhood is looking at this VAR charge and they see $850 million for AMC only, which stock are you going to a PCO?
Well, AMC.
If you PCO only AMC, they have plenty of money to clear GameStop. Yet Robinhood not only PCO'd GME and AMC, they also restricted a ton of other stocks. So why would that even? There's a discrepancy there. The risk mitigation efforts were not in line with what the actual VAR charge show. So if they're 250 million under what they had already at the DTCC prior to them even putting up 700 million or getting the ECP waiver, because they wouldn't have gotten the ECP charge if they had just PCO'd AMC. Is that kind of making sense?
Yeah.
What I'm saying right now?
Yeah.
It's like, so how the hell did you come to the decision to PCO of the basket when AMC is such a drastic risk in your own portfolio of uncleared trades? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, but why was AMC deemed to be so much more risky? Was there a lot more people buying AMC than GME?
That's why I almost got that's why everyone was saying it was a play. Now, if you add trade 385 with that, trade 385 is so important because it is the reason Apex Clearing. Do you know what trade 385 is?
No.
Okay. Apex Clearing did not have a reason to restrict any stocks because they made a clearing mistake. And the mistake is very, very understandable. And I'll show it to you right now. It was the gotcha post. You're seeing this, right?
Yeah.
Why Apex Clearing froze GME at hundreds of retail brokers, Webull, Sophie, Ally, M1, Goldman Sachs, Marcus, Tastyworks, Public.com, all those. A market maker bought 23 million shares, right? 385 million. That's where trade 385 comes.
Mm-hmm.
A market maker bought 23 million shares and within the same second sold it on January 27th, 2021. That's the day before the buy freeze. Apex only logged the buy, not the sell, until 11 a.m. the very next day. So January 28th, 2021, when Apex Clearing froze GME and AMC and costs for 3 hours. When they logged the sell of the 23 million shares of AMC the next day, their ECP charge was wiped. So, but if the buy was only logged, then it skyrocketed volatility, fake spiked the VAR, and triggered the ECP. And the ECP was the excuse for why Apex Clearing PCO'd GME and AMC. And I have proof of this. And the proof is right here. And I want to show you. On the U.S. House Committee on Financial Services, on the morning of January 28th, prior to market open, Apex received its daily automated NSCC deposit requirements notice, which showed a collateral deficit of approximately 68.2 million, which is fine, well within the means of Apex to satisfy, and accordingly, this deposit notice did not elicit any non-routine reaction from Apex Clearing personnel. Now, however, at 10 a.m. Eastern, however, Apex accessed the NSCC's portal and viewed a slice, the 10 a.m. slice that showed a potential collateral deposit requirement that had increased exponentially from approximately $68.2 million to approximately $1 billion with a value at risk charge of $434.9 million. While the slice did not include information on a potential excess capital premium charge, Apex calculated that it would owe an excess capital premium charge of $562.4 million based upon the value at risk charge contained in their 10 a.m. slice. Okay, so this is just setting up, okay, Apex is because Apex was the one clearing firm that morning that didn't receive a waiver. So that would be the first. You're seeing this, right? Am I just talking?
Yeah. Keep going.
So the question everyone was asking about 2 years ago was like, okay, so you got Instinet, you've got Robinhood, you've got Wedbush, you've got LEK, you've got Axos, and they're all receiving excess capital premium waivers. Why the hell did Apex not receive an excess capital premium waiver? Well, this is why. Because right when they calculated that they were going to get an excess capital premium charge, they froze stocks. And so they got the hypothetical and they froze. Okay, so upon receiving the 10 a.m. slice, Apex personnel felt that it would be challenging for them to meet a discretionary intraday margin call at the vicinity of $1 billion within the normal 1 hour time frame. But upon receiving what appeared to be anomalous slice data, it quickly reached out to the NSCC to and confirmed that the numbers provided in Apex's portal were accurate. So they cleared it with the NSCC saying, hey, was this the right calculation? Which did not include the excess capital premium charge calculated internally by Apex. Senior Apex personnel, expecting trading activity to increase throughout the day and drive the requirements even higher, decided to impose the trading restrictions on AMC, GME, and costs. Apex reviewed the detailed NSCC files outlining its collateral charges and estimated that at the time, that it imposed its restrictions. Pending settlements for these three symbols accounted for approximately 90% of Apex's total potential NSCC deposit requirement. So 90% of Apex's requirement was like GME and AMC and COS.
Yeah.
So Apex's CEO Bill Capuzzi approved of the decision to impose trading restrictions prior to the distribution of the emergency notice via email that was sent to Apex's clients. I actually found how many clients Apex had in a merger that happened right after with North. They had 175 clients. So Apex had 175 retail brokers approximately 175 retail brokers that they froze buying for on January 28th, 2021. So when they put out this email to all their brokers that they weren't going to clear for AMC, GME, and COS, they restricted trading at 175 brokers. Crazy, right? So after they received another anomalous slice at 11 a.m. Eastern, which outlined a dramatically lower collateral requirement. So I remember where I was talking about 11 a.m., right?
Mm-hmm.
So at 11 a.m., their collateral requirement just lowered out of nowhere, right? Like, what the hell? Why did it lower? They're like, hey, man, we just got this massive spike. We got an ECP charge. We're gonna freeze all these stocks based on this calculation. We didn't get it yet. This was a hypothetical, and we're freezing in stocks based on this calculation. Why the hell did we get that calculation? And why the hell at 11 a.m. did it just go down out of nowhere? Based on the information in the 11 a.m. slice, Apex calculated that it would not be subject to an excess capital premium charge. Apex subsequently confirmed with the NSCC on a phone call that the lower amount was accurate. Okay, so they're like, all right, hold on. 11 a.m. I don't know where this lower amount came from, because everything in our books is showing everything's going up, up, up. Now here's the kicker. Apex later concluded an internal investigation and discovered what led to the elimination of its excess capital premium charge, as communicated in the 11 a.m. slice. Its internal review revealed an imbalance of trading activity in Apex's trading book from January 27, 2021, the day before, caused by a single large one-sided trade when a proprietary trading firm both sold and purchased approximately 385 million of AMC. The two trades occurred within less than a second of one another, but given the extreme volatility in AMC, the buy order went through. But the sell side of the trade required manual intervention because the price of the stock had changed so considerably in the fraction of a second between the buy and the sell order. Apex's overnight process for clearing trades require manual verification for trades that involve both a buy order and a sell order in rapid succession. If the spread between the buy and the sell order is greater than $10 net. This created a temporary imbalance in trading activity, i.e. a net buy position, which represents greater risk in a trading book and resulted in the NSCC assessing a heightened value at risk charge to Apex. Once Apex's operations team became aware of the need to manually acknowledge the sell side of the trade, they promptly approved the trade, acknowledging the acknowledgement at 11 a.m., like what we saw before. The acknowledgement eliminated the imbalance in trading activity, greatly lowering the company's value at risk charge, the VAR charge, which triggers the ECP, and eliminated the excess capital premium charge in the firm's internal calculations. Then, if you look at the footnotes are so important. This particular trade was from a proprietary trade. This is the trade on January 27th, 2021. The $385 million trade of AMC at 23 million shares. This particular trade was from a proprietary trading firm engaged in market-making activity who initiated a near simultaneously buy order and sell order of an equivalent amount, i.e. approximately 23 million shares of AMC Entertainment Holdings long and 23 million shares of AMC Holdings short. So that has been like huge on Reddit. And then I don't know if do you know
hang on.
Peruvian Bull?
Let's just yeah, I talked to him and I was gonna he was on the show and the audio fucking corrupted after during the recording. I've no idea what happened. It just got completely ruined. Yeah, OCB needed some sort of driver update and then yeah, just decided the audio encoding didn't want to work. But he's coming back on.
So but you know him, right?
Yeah.
He's like he's legit, right?
Okay,
So
sorry,
I told him, I'm like, hey, Peruvian.
Can we just go back one second?
Talk. You're good. Go ahead.
So
sorry.
Blah blah blah. 1 billion.
I dominate, my bad.
1 billion charge put up to them, and then they were like, right, okay, well, maybe we need to restrict trading. And then an hour later.
Oh, here's the issue.
When did they restrict trading? Because they definitely did at some point. When did they?
Yeah, no, they restricted trading for 3 hours on January 28th, 2021.
What time?
They restricted it during that time. I don't know, somewhere between 10 a.m. and 2. It's 3 hours in that. They opened back up at like 2.
Okay, so but even all right, okay, so they even though they knew that they didn't have to pay this excess risk charge, they still didn't.
No, here's the no, they did know. They didn't know. So here's the problem. Here is my assessment. And let me just share with you because I talked to Peruvian Bull about it, and I was like, hey man, this is what I'm thinking right now. And he came on and just posted one of the comments that I did on Reddit. Let me and this is the comment I do like about the whole that kind of summarizes everything. I'm better in writing, man. I know I speak a little garbled, but I'm way better in writing. Okay, can you see this?
Yeah.
Okay, so Peruvian posted this of that's where trade 385. So I was like, I'm gonna mark this as I'm gonna call this trade 385. So
yeah.
It's Apex Clearing's mishandling of the sell side of 2 equivalent proprietary trades by an unidentified market maker that occurred within the same second on January 27th, 2021. The buy trade was 350 million and the sell trade was 350 million. By logging only the buy but not the sell, the gigantic buy trade fake spiked the volatility, which has everything to do with the VAR, and the VAR giving Apex Clearing a defaulting calculation they used as the excuse for issuing an emergency PCO, buy freeze, directive for GME and movies is AMC, to the hundreds of retail brokers it clears for on January 28th, 2021. When Apex Clearing finally logged the $385 million sell trade after being stuck in overnight acknowledgement, it wiped away their defaulting calculation, and in other words, it wiped away Apex Clearing's excuse for freezing GME. So their entire reason for freezing the stocks on January 28th, 2021 was due to a clearing firm error. It's negligence. And it wasn't even brought up at any of the congressional hearings. First off, Apex Clearing wasn't mentioned once at the congressional hearings. So, I mean, going back to what we were saying, like, why the hell talk about just Robinhood?
Negligence. So it sounds like it sounds like someone knows how that system works. That with an order with a buy spread, yeah, obviously speculation. Why?
That's speculation. That's speculation. I don't speak speculation. I can't. In just with the evidence given, this is negligence on a clearing firm at a high level. And I'm not saying that you're speculating, but that's what everyone does when they talk about trade 385. They're like, oh my God,
it's Citadel.
Who was the DMM of AMC that day? Do you know?
No.
Citadel.
Yeah. Okay, well that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, but here's the thing: there's a ton of market makers, so you can't just put Citadel in the center of it. So everyone's gonna go, "Oh, it's Citadel, it's Citadel." Like, all right, maybe, but there were a lot of market makers. But what the hell? So here's the question, and let me throw the memes on there because these were the memes that you can see this, right? Okay, so bingo, here it is. Okay. So the question you have to ask is who the hell was the proprietary, which you just asked. So I'm really glad you pinpointed, Josh. You pinpointed the exact question everyone's asking. Who the hell was the proprietary firm that traded that $385 million within the same second? And then what does a wash trade like that? What is the market making purpose there? Like, what is that? Well, I mean, like, it's under legitimate market making purposes. What? You pinpointed it at who was that proprietary market maker? Like, it feels like we should know if this was a negligent clearing issue. But again, you can't really put it on the market maker because he did do the sell and the buy and he did the wash trade. It was Apex's non-acknowledgement of that. Because I mean, if the hedge is so high, like it's like above $10,
Yeah, but what? Yeah, my question is like, okay, so it is negligence because the question is like, okay, so right, fair enough. There's this like thing that says you have to acknowledge like a large trade or buy sell, right? Okay, fine, I get that. Maybe that's like, maybe that's a good procedure to have in place. Why is it only one side of the trade? Like, because as a result, clearly we've seen it can cause like far-reaching consequences. Some guy sets up this like look at the dominoes falling here. So it starts with some guy failing to set this system up so that it like puts alarm bells on both sides of the trade, and then a guy sticks a banana up his ass. Are these two things connected? Someone goes on a live stream and eats an entire jar of mayonnaise. And it all began with this guy. Yeah. But in seriousness,
it's wild.
Well,
here's the thing: we can't speculate. That's the one thing we can't do. So one thing we can't do as people who post and speak is we can't speculate. What we can do is
it's fun.
Yeah, well, something I don't. I can't speculate. But what we can do is we can say the congressional hearings were not well informed. They were negligent in their knowledge of what happened that day. They didn't. And that gets us to Instinet, where is what I. But you see that there's so much more that I want to talk to you about, and I've been posting about this for 3 years, so it's impossible to get all this to you in like an hour.
Yeah.
That's why, and I hope that this has been good information to you.
Yeah.
Has anyone talked about Trade 385?
No,
not
one. To me. And I haven't seen it, like you said, in any of the documentaries. So right, okay.
Well,
what I'm gonna suggest we do, right, is I'm gonna suggest we draw a line under this here, right? And we come back if it's all right. People listening, watching, because it's much easier. Figure out what you think about this, and if you want us to come back and do another round where we go further into this and we talk about Instinet and the clearing, let us know in the comments, and we will come back.
One second. I definitely, the whole reason I came on here was Instinet.
Okay.
Like the Trade 385 was just something that's like newer, but okay. Instinet is very important.
Okay, well then give us the taster on Instinet and like explain what the thing is, and then maybe we can come back in future soon and go deep on Instinet. But yeah, give us the TLDR.
Okay. Well, it all starts out with posts 2 years ago where we saw on a page on the U.S. congressional hearing. Let me find out which page. It's easy for me to do because I know this pretty well. It was page 101 of the U.S. House. On page 101 of the U.S. House Committee on Financial Services, there's a footnote that shows all the companies that were defaulting on January 28th, 2021. And so and a user...
What page?
What's that?
What page?
On page 101. of the U.S. House Committee on Financial Services. First off, it showed how much was waived that day. So Robinhood had 2.3 billion of its excess capital premium. And what an excess capital premium is that when your margin, what we were just talking about, when your margin goes over your regulatory capital and pushes into your net capital. So your net excess capital, it's how much money you actually have, right? And then your margin goes over that amount. So you're like, uh-oh. So even my buffer, so you have your regulatory capital that you're prepared for, and then your excess net capital was like, that's everything you got. That's your buffer. That's your safety buffer as a clearing firm. When it goes over that, you get a charge. And that charge and this is where we go back to the 99% movement and all that stuff. This charge was set out in 2008 within Dodd-Frank, when because initially how I got into this 9 years ago was the Glass-Steagall being repealed in '99. That's where I think that most of our financial system has been destroyed, is during the Clinton administration. And it has nothing to do with Democrats or Republicans, so get that out of your head, because this was a unanimous decision. Like 4 people were against it.
Six of us default.
It was is when Glass-Steagall was repealed, and commercial and investment banking came together. But anyway, that caused the 2008 financial crisis, and then we got Dodd-Frank, because 2008 was a clearing and settlement crisis, just like, and I think this the topic, the title of this podcast should be the GameStop January 2021 clearing and settlement crisis, because that's what this was. This was a clearing and settlement crisis. This was clearing firms. This was GameStop, AMC was causing cascading clearing firm default. And on page 101, it shows you how many companies were defaulting. We had Instinet, Vision, Axos, and this is off the top of my head, so if I'm wrong, just say, but I'm not. Vision, Axos, LEK, Wedbush, and Robinhood and Instinet. Now, we saw these 6 companies, and we're like, oh, shit. So it was 6 companies that were defaulting that morning. And there was $9.7 billion between the 6 of them, right? And so if you do an average of that, it gives you kind of this blotto average of like, I'll just do the math right now. I forgot. My post was, my first post on it was just an average of them. And so it was calculating, if you get a calculator and you put Robinhood's 2.3 billion, and then you minus the 9.7 billion, you get 7.4 billion, right? And then you divide that by 5. And then so then you say, okay, well, the other clearing firms got 1.48 billion each. And then Robinhood got 2.3 billion, right? And you can leave it at that, because the DTCC and Congress didn't break down what the margins were for each of them, right? So you're just like, all right, so I guess everybody's excess capital premium was 1.4 billion, because if you put an average and you just do the math right there, it comes to 1.4 billion each, and we can leave it at that. Well, that's where user kidnap comes in, because user kidnap, and this is, I mean, like, I have at the end perfected, but dude, this guy was a gem. I mean, he came on and he saw that average post. So because I was super interested. All I could post about was that shit. I was like, oh my, what did these clearing firms get that day? I was so excited about it. I was like, 9.7 billion, that's a lot of money. And then user kidnap came on and said, hey man, I think I can figure out what they got based on the information in the report. And I'm going to do this whole thing on it. And I was like, all right, dude, do it. 100%, bro. I'm going to, and we started chatting in DMs. I'm like, yeah, come on, man. You got this, dog. And he finally let his DD out, right? And when I saw it, I almost cried. Because I was so passionate about this back in the day. I mean, like, I was like, you did it, bro. And nobody gave a shit. like maybe 1,000 people gave a shit. Like, you know, like the Trade 385, when I first found that got almost 1 million people viewing it, right? Like, but his major DD got nothing, right? So so I'm like, all right, what did he do? What he did, and can I share something with you?
Mhm.
I think it'd be important. This is extremely important. Um, so I made his post a little bit more friendly. I spent hours and hours and hours and hours and hours to put this together. And it's very, 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 very accurate. This was millions and millions of people times have vetted this information. So this is it's one of the most posted on Superstonk for sure.
Just working for you.
There you go.
Can you see it?
I can see it now. Perfect.
106 tells a half story. Here's the other half. Since there was an applied charge, what is left is what is not applied, a waiver. Simply the calculated minus the applied. Of Instinet's near $67 billion in risk deterrent charges, about 25% were applied and 75% were waived. Combining the overall sum in billions of all company charges, applied and waived, each firm's individual percentages can be compared to the group. Instinet's charges and waivers are not only first place, they were first place by orders of magnitude. The gap is so large between Instinet and second place that it begs the question, why even make the comparison? Of the combined $73 billion among all companies, Instinet incurred 92% of the charges and 90% of the waivers. 6 firms received the excess capital premium charge on January 28, 2021, also known as the Dodd-Frank risk deterrent penalties. Those firms were Robinhood, Axos, Instinet, Wedbush, LEK, and Vision. The Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation waived 100% of all $9.7 billion in charges levied that day. Robinhood's defaulting risk deterrent was $2.3 billion, confirmed by both Congress and the Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation. From the top 5 table, we know that Axos could only have gotten $920 million at most on January 28, 2021, since that's their total waivers for the entire 2 years, including the meme stock market event. Virtue is ranked 5th place for incurring charges for the 2 years leading into and on the meme stock market event, shown in Table 1, meaning the rest of the companies on our January 28, 2021 list could not have received charges higher than Virtue. Therefore, we can factually supplant Virtue's charge as Wedbush, Vision, and LEK's at most value for January 28, 2021. Remember, $9.7 billion of Dodd-Frank risk deterrents were charged and waived on January 28, 2021, so our end value needs to equal that. Now, we have 5 values for 5 firms on the list, totaling $6.4 billion. So, logically, statistically, and most important, factually, Instinet was defaulting by $3.3 billion at the very least on January 28, 2021. Why at the very least? Because the other 4 companies have at most values, and if we find that their charges were lower that day, which very well may be the case, then Instinet's value can only go up, it cannot go down. The SEC confirms Instinet's Dodd-Frank risk deterrent penalty in one line in their report on the meme stock market event. Quote, absent this waiver, one retail broker would have had an additional excess capital premium charge of more than double its margin requirement of $1.4 billion on January 28, 2021. More than double $1.4 billion factually ranges in between 2 to 3 times $1.4 billion, which is between $2.8 billion and $4.2 billion exactly. Robinhood's excess capital premium charge was $2.3 billion, which is $500 million less than double $1.4 billion, eliminating Robinhood from the retail broker that the SEC was referring to. Instinet, however, is a self-proclaimed retail broker as well, and its excess capital premium charge is at least $3.3 billion. Factually, as we have concluded, well within the range of double to triple $1.4 billion. And I'll leave you at that.
Okay, so at the end there, that one line in the SEC report, I know it comes off a little confusing in the end of that video, but what it basically says is that, okay, so that is on page 31 of the SEC document.
Yeah.
Okay, so it says okay. In addition, several NSCC members were subject to ECP charges based on the ratio of excess capital premium in their portfolios, right? And then because these members' ratios of excess risk versus capital were not driven by individual individual clearing member actions, which now I want to stop right there before I go over. Well, let me go over this one, but I want to come back to that. So, okay, absent this waiver, right at the bottom there, it says absent this waiver, when they waived the 9.7 billion on January 28th, 2021. Absent this waiver, one retail broker dealer would have had an additional ECP charge of more than double its margin requirement of 1.4 billion on January 28th, 2021. Now, everyone's thinking right now who knows a little bit about the margins there, and especially you, because you know a lot about the margins on that morning. You go, okay, that's got to be Robinhood, because Robinhood's was 1.4 billion, right?
Yeah.
But hold on. It says, absent this waiver, one retail broker would have had an additional ECP charge of more than double its margin requirement. We already know Robinhood's ECP charge. It was 2.3 billion.
Yeah.
And it said would have had an additional ECP charge of more than double its margin requirement. So an additional ECP charge of more than double its margin requirement, 1.4 times times 2 is 2.8. That's already 500 million less than two times 1.4. So it cannot be Robinhood. But then you have Instinet, who we have at 3.3 billion, and it's right within that nice little range of 2 to 3 times the margin requirement of 1.4 billion. Now, we could say that, okay, yeah, Instinet was 1.4 billion as a margin too. But again, we don't know what Instinet's net capital was. We just don't. We don't know what Instinet's and that's where the ECP charge goes crazy, because Robinhood's net capital was probably a lot higher than, I don't know. This is all speculation, but whatever Instinet's net capital was, when you get past that, the excess capital premium charge goes crazy. It gets exponentially high. So anyway, so this one line shows that there is one broker dealer, which Instinet is an agency broker. So Instinet, just real quick on what Instinet is. So Instinet has been around since 1969. It's an old company. It's like, you know the term fintech?
Yeah.
They are the ones who first used it. No one else used that term before. They were the first ones to make an electronic ticker. Like, that's how old Instinet is. They were like old. And so Instinet has gone through many changes over the years. It started dealing with equities in the 1980s, and the first electronic trading network. Now, I don't know about the first one, but it's very close to like. Anyway, so when Doug Atkin took over, there's actually an interesting yelled at him in front of in the SEC office. He yelled at Ken Griffin, like full on had a full fight with Ken Griffin in front of SEC officials in, I think, in the 1990s or 1980s or something. But anyway, they run a dark pool now. So they were taken over by Nomura. They went from Router's Bottom to the Router's Bottom, and then Nomura Bottom. Nomura of now Instinet is Nomura's trading arm. So yeah, I know you don't have time. So there's so much more on the Instinet bit, but let's end it on that.
Hey, listeners, real quick. Do you ever find yourself sitting watching the stock market like this? Well, now you could instead be ordering my book like this. It's the story of GameStop. You can purchase it with a hoodie, with acknowledgements or just with the early backers edition. It's all about the GameStop story. It's the real story, not just what you've seen on films. It's exactly what has happened over the last 3.5 years. And with DFE back, I'm finally able to draw a conclusion to my book. Please pre-order it. It really helps me out. And you will get it eventually, I promise. Hopefully this year.